Hey guys, Pitmaster here. I got 4 lessons for you today. 4 very important life lessons taught to you by the UFC Fight Night Botch versus Henderson. There were some great fights. In fact, there was a lot of great fights that night. But I took away 4 very important lessons that I can use in my everyday life, and I'm going to give them to you right now. You can use them in your everyday life to become better and more well-adjusted and stronger martial artists. Because all of you guys out there watching, I hope, are martial artists. If not, you should be. Okay, lesson number 1. Never judge a book by its cover. This goes way back. I mean, it goes back to one of my earlier fights when I was, beating a bunch of big, buff-looking guys, usually bigger than me, and they were tough, but I was, fighting them, and then I fought this little short guy with a belly hanging over his shorts, long hair, and I actually was so condescending, and I was so overly self-confident that I just thought, who's this guy wants to fight me? He ended up beating the shit out of me that night. I'm not joking. That was my first hard-hitting experience of never judging a book by its cover, because you would never look at him and think, oh shit, that guy's a great fighter. And he ended up being one. He ended up winning a world title. Okay. And there's a lot of fighters in the UFC you'll see like that. That you go, Steven Seiler, one of the toughest guys, one of the, brawling, toughest, cool-headed fighters I know. Google Steven Seiler if you don't know who that is, and tell me you would not judge that book. Well, let's talk about Fight Night Bosch versus Henderson. Dan Henderson. Look at him. He does not look like he hits as hard as Mike Tyson. I mean, nobody would look at him and think, oh shit, that guy's a brutal fighter. He's one of the most brutal, tough fighters on the planet. He's 44 years old. And he's fought in Pride. He's fought heavyweights, light heavyweights. I mean, he's fought legends. He's fought guys like Vanderlei. He's fought the bigger Nogueira brother. I mean, he's fought everyone. He's so tough and he hits so hard. He just doesn't look like it. So the lesson is, when you're for street fighters or for people on the street, don't ever judge a book by its cover. Go by your intuition. Go by physical cues or body language or history, but don't go by looks, because they are so deceiving. Another one's Daniel Cormier. Who would have thought? Okay. Another one from last night's fights, Sean Jordan. He fights someone like 6 inches taller than him. He doesn't look like he's in great shape because he's making heavyweight. He wants to put on a little extra bulk. That's great. I mean, doesn't look as strong as he is. I mean, who would know that he can overhead squat like 500 pounds and just do all those crazy things. He does backflips. I mean, he doesn't look that athletic. And he gets in a fight and he drops the guy with a front-legged hook kick. A guy 6 feet taller than him, or 6 inches taller than him. And he drops the guy with a front-legged hook kick. I mean, drops him. I mean, it was a righteous drop. I mean, if it was a kickboxing match, it would have been an 8 count and a 2-point round. But he hurt him with that kick so badly, he just jumped on top of him and finished him. But don't ever judge a book by its cover, because if you were a betting person, you would never bet that Sean Jordan would have dropped that guy with a front-legged hook kick. I don't know if that's ever been done in the UFC. I know some spinning hook kicks have been, but a front-legged hook kick is hard to generate a lot of power with your front leg with a hook kick. And he dropped the guy with it. So Okay, so that's lesson number 1. Never judge a book by its cover. Okay, lesson number 2. When you're in the pocket, whatever your strategy is or whatever your style is, don't leave your chin up. Okay, if you want to drop your hands like some of the boxers used to, they always kept their chin down even when their hands were down. Okay, do not keep your chin up when you're in the pocket. In other words, when you're in distance to get hit. Alex, Bruce Leroy learned that last night against Francisco Rivera. Francisco, that's fun to say. What movie is that? Anyway, Francisco Rivera, his chin was up. Francisco Rivera landed a kind of a looping right and then a beautiful left hook, put him to sleep. So, lesson number 2. If you're in the pocket, and this could be a metaphor for life, if you're in the pocket, don't leave your chin up, keep your chin down. Okay? The only time you can lift your chin up is 2 times. Number 1, if someone has a guillotine on you. Number 2, if you're outside of their range. Okay? Whew. Okay. Lesson number 3. When somebody's leg kicking you, either outside or inside, check it. Okay? Check it. There's a reason that those Thais invented the leg check. It's so it doesn't blow out your knee like what happened to Brian Ebersol last night. Such a good fighter, but this guy was giving him inside leg kicks and he didn't check any of them. So after the first round, when they called rang the bell for the second round, he couldn't fight anymore because his knee was substantially swollen, obviously with some pretty bad damage to that knee, all from inside leg kicks. And his trainer, the trainer of his opponent, told them to do that because he has a history of not checking leg kicks. This guy trains in Thailand. You need to learn leg checks. Okay, I'm just talking to Brian right now, but I love Brian. He's a great fighter, a great warrior, but he's been in Thailand. Why no leg checks? So number 3, that lesson is leg checks. Another thing you can use as a metaphor for life or just in your martial arts gym. Always leg check. Drill leg checks over and over and over. It's such an important fundamental of martial arts, whether it's Muay Thai, street fighting. Somebody might throw a kick in a street fight, or MMA. Drill your leg checks over and over because they should be second nature when you see that leg kicking you to check. Okay, so leg checks, very important. Okay, 4th and final lesson that I learned from Fight Night, Botch, Henderson. Perseverance. Have perseverance. This is a huge metaphor for anything you do. Perseverance. Stick-to-itness. Stick to it and don't give up. If you have your eye on the prize or you're focusing on something, don't give up when things get tough. You'll never be a success in anything. Whether it's romance, business, martial arts, football, baseball, sports, anything. Perseverance is one of the most important. It's one of the most important skills or drives or whatever you want to call it to have. Perseverance. Okay? Last night, I'll give you 2 examples. Thiago Tavares. I thought he was beating Brian Ortega for 2 rounds. Brutal rounds. Probably his fight of the night, one of the best fights ever. But Thiago ended up with a brutal cut. But he fought through. He showed perseverance. But even more than that, he started tiring before Brian Ortega, even though he was winning the fight rounds 1 and 2, I thought. But in round 3, Brian Ortega showed incredible perseverance, incredible conditioning, and even though he was losing those 2 rounds, he came back in the 3rd round and knocked Tavares out and won the fight. Great show of perseverance. Another one was Justin Edwards against Joe Proctor. I thought Justin won round 1 and 2. They were close. You could have gone either way. But Joe didn't give up. He just kept trying and trying and trying and ended up winning the fight with 2 seconds left in the 3rd round with a guillotine. Perseverance. Okay? So those are my 4 lessons. Please learn them and please practice them. Never judge a book by its cover. Never. Okay? Keep your chin down. Always. When you're in the pocket, keep your chin down. Learn and drill leg kicks. Number 3. Number 4, please have perseverance. You will go much farther in life with it. Any great champion, any great person of anything has perseverance. Because if not, they wouldn't be great. All right, thanks for coming.